Hello guys, so this is my first video with this channel Academic Stories, and from the name it is self-explanatory that this channel will be all about academic stories, and I'll bring you both successful stories and academic dishonesty. So this first story is all about academic dishonesty, and just to give you a brief overview, it's about two college guys. They were cheating in an exam. So let's see what we got here. So I'll be narrating the story, and the different thing about this channel is that this channel is not about like horror stories that other channels like Mr. Nightmare and Lazy Masquerade and Corpse Husband, they bring you horror stories from around the world, and that's much like of personal experiences and personal based horror stories. This is more of an academic, but yeah, the stories are still interesting and chilling, so bear with me. So, without wasting much time, let's start it. Um, hey guys, I'm a college student at a college in northwestern PA. I stay in an off campus apartment with my roommate Dominic, or Dom as I'll call him here. Recently, we got a letter in the mail, one for each of us from the college. It was a typical form letter that used a bunch of unnecessarily large words to explain that they were implementing a new policy to fight academic fraud and dishonesty. It didn't go into any detail about the policy, only that it was new and was now being implemented. It also said that students did not have to be observed cheating by teachers to receive non academic sanctions. We tossed the letters without much thought, laughing about how there was no way that they could lock us down anymore. There were already plenty of things in place to discourage cheating anyway. My personal favorite, as far as hilariously overdoing it, is our campus testing center. This is basically for people who miss test days. You email the teacher and they put the test down in the testing center, and you go down there at some point to take it. This isn't why it's crazy though. The testing center is the closest I've ever been to feeling like I'm in prison. You walk in, and there's a secretary and a campus rent a cop. You have to sign in, and then you have to take everything out of your pockets, phone, wallet, keys, anything and everything, and put it in a little lockbox that they have in there. Then you go into the actual testing room, which is a small room with 10 or so desks. The walls are completely featureless, as are the floor and ceiling, other than the four security cameras hanging in each corner of the ceiling. The whole room seems to be heavily soundproofed, and there's a big window where the secretary and cop can watch you while you take the test. It's a tiny bit excessive. The only time I had to go in there was for an intro to psych test I missed due to a bad cold. The test was simple though, and I was only in the room for 5 or so minutes and I aced it. Wasn't that hard. Dom, not so much. He has always had a bad habit of finding better things to do than go to his financial accounting class. We both had to take it for our degrees. But I took it early, and too, my dad is a financial guy and at Boeing, and all but did most of my homework for me. Dom, however, he chose to wait until year 3 to take the class, and he fucking avoiding it like the plague. I tried to tell him that he had have to keep taking the class until he passed it, but it all went in one ear and out the other. He was more of a typical college guy. He had skipped class and go out at the machine shop, our local campus pub. Anyway, Dom had to make up a test he had missed, a midterm no less, which he couldn't avoid as it was 10% of the semester grade, and he needed every point he could get. He came back that evening after taking the test and told me of a plan he had used to get around the testing center's security. He had purchased a burner cell phone at the local Walmart, gotten dozens of equations, definitions, and whatnot out of the textbook, and saved them as notes in his phone, which he hid in his shoe. He gave the guard his actual cell phone and made it to the testing room with the burner one. He waited until the secretary and guard weren't watching him and pulled out the cell and started jotting down as much as he could on the test paper. We had heard enough around campus that they never checked the security camera footage unless something was very blatantly off about a particular test. But the teachers weren't allowed to check based on how they assumed the particular student would do. This meant that if Dom magically aced the test, it couldn't be questioned, since the testing center was assumed to be impenetrable to cheaters. It turned out it pretty much was. Dom then had just about finished the test and slipped the phone back into his shoe. At this point, he noticed the secretary through the window. She was opening the lockbox with his belongings in it. She took out his cell phone and was doing something with it. Dom was understandably pissed. So he walked out, slammed his test down on the desk, and snatched his phone out of her hand. The security guard pulled him back from the desk by his arm and quickly handed him his belongings. He didn't get a chance to say anything before the secretary handed him a piece of paper with the college letterhead on it. It was another copy of the academic honesty form letter we had received in the mail. He got nervous, figuring that they had somehow seen him, but the secretary simply told him to have a nice day while the guard opened the door and ushered him out. When he told me this, I thought it was weird though, but at the same time a bit of karma. He did manage to cheat in the testing center, which was braggable, but he didn't actually know if he had gotten away with it. About an hour later, we were relaxing, watching TV when his phone buzzed. It was a picture sent from an email address. The address was academichonesty at something.edu. Upon zooming it, we saw that it was a photo that someone had taken out of the same form letter from the mail. Dom was freaked out, not because this was getting to be kind of creepy, but because he figured that this meant he was busted. He started coming up with explanations like he had forgotten to turn off his second phone in the center and was simply turning it off. Obviously, this wouldn't fly, but he was freaked out that he had to take the class over or might even get expelled. I told him to try and figure it out the next day. We went to we went to our rooms and around 2 a.m. I heard my phone ring as I had turned my ringer on at night so that I had hear my alarm in the morning. It was for Dom. And he simply said, "Listen." I turned the ringer off and definitely heard shuffling around outside the door. I wasn't thinking anything creepy, I was thinking burglar. I grabbed the pocket knife that I kept in my drawer and opened the door in a rush. There was someone there in all black with a clown Halloween mask on. The clown was holding a big brown box. Everything seemed to go silent. Me and the clown both froze, staring at each other in silence. Right then, Dom's door flung open, and he ran out in his boxers, trying to get a hold of the clown. The clown threw the box at him, knocking him down, and ran out the open door at the apartment. Dom was on the floor, half asleep and reeling from the blow of the apparently heavy box which had hit him in the stomach, sending its contents all over the room. Papers, copies of the cheating letter, hundreds, maybe thousands of them, the exact same thing. Dom flipped, throwing the box and papers around the room. I felt bad for him. This was going way too far. We called the police, who were campus police, since we were still within their jurisdiction. They came over and we explained what had happened, and we explained everything. And then they filed an incident report, which the younger of the two officers dutifully wrote down. The older cop asked about the papers, and we picked up a few and handed them to him. He immediately held the paper close to his face and looked at the bottom left corner of one of them. After scanning it for a few seconds, he muttered an inquisitive, "Hmm," and with that, tapped the younger officer on the shoulder, looked at us, and said an unfeeling, "Have a good night, boys." The younger officer looked confused, but gave a quick salute and followed the older one out of the door without another word. We watched out the window. They reached the end of our small parking lot and it looked they were arguing. We watched as the older cop wrenched the incident report from a younger guy, took out his Zippo lighter and lit it at the bottom, holding it until the flames nearly touched his gloved hand. The paper fell to ashes, completely burned before it touched the ground, and the cops got back in their car and drove off into the night. We weren't shocked nor mad. We both felt the same drop in our guts. I looked at Dom and could tell he felt the same as I did. Something was very, very wrong here. Things got weirder and creepier. The next day, while on campus, we picked up copies of the daily campus newspaper. On the front was a stock photo of a guy in a clown mask, and the accompanying story stated that a student was rushed to the hospital after being beaten by a home invader in a clown mask the previous night. That same day, as we were walking to the parking lot to head home, we witnessed campus police going around to each newsstand and hefting the stacks of papers into garbage bags. It was only around 4 p.m. Okay, folks, so this story is pretty long, and I'm gonna continue with the second part for the next time. Till then, smash that like button, as I said in the description, subscribe for more news stories. And because this is the only channel you will find academic stories and stuff like this, cool stuff like that. So please go ahead, subscribe that, as I need your support. All right. Bye for next time.